Hello then, thank you for staying with us. This is the World News at 6. My name is Esther Wachuku.
My name is Choma Innocent, and here are the top stories. U.S. lawmaker hails school children's rescue. Court rejects Nnamdi Kano's request to be transferred from Sokoto prison. First Lady Remi Tinubu threatens to switch off Governor Adeleke's mic during coronation, and President Tinubu holds closed-door meeting with 6 APC governors. Details now.
Now, Russian soldiers are claimed to be raping and beheading civilians and gouging out their organs in a supposed fight against extremism in Mali. Moscow's Africa Corps appears to have taken over the disbanded Wagner Group mercenary organization, which was also accused of war crimes in Africa. Witnesses say the unit has shot civilians on sight and harvested their organs. This investigation is ongoing by the Associated Press. West Africa's Sahel has become the world's deadliest hotspot for extremist violence, with thousands of people killed in recent years. The military rulers of Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger have abandoned Western partners and turned to Russia for help against Al-Qaeda and Islamic State-linked fighters. 2 refugees showed videos of banned vigilance to the Associated Press. 2 others said they had found their loved ones and bodies with their liver and kidneys missing. Meanwhile, Russia's foreign ministry confirmed that Africa's Corps was operating in Mali at a request of the Malian authorities. The Telegraph reported last month that Russia has become Mali's main security partner in the fight against Al-Qaeda for control of the West African nation. The Africa Corps, formed after Yevgeny Prigozhin, the Wagner founder, died in a suspicious plane crash in 2023 following his armed rebellion against Vladimir Putin. Analysts estimate 2,000 of its fighters operate in Mali. Now, panic has gripped parts of Adamawa state as heavily armed Chobo-speaking tribal militia from neighboring Gombe state joined their counterparts in Adamawa state and launched coordinated assaults on Bachama communities in Lamodi local government area, leaving dozens feared dead. Local sources disclosed that the attackers advanced from the creeks bordering Gombe and overran several settlements from the western axis, sacking Tigno, Waduku and 2 other villages. Another resident confirmed that although the assailants attempted to move towards Lamode, the local government area headquarters, they were, however, repelled. The fresh violence erupted barely days after Governor Ahmadu Umaru Fintiri brokered a fragile peace deal between the warring Chobo and Bachama groups. This is according to Dr. Jamaila Suleiman, Executive Vice Chairperson of the Adamawa State Peace Commission. As attacks continue, Governor Fintiri imposed a 24-hour curfew on Lamode local government area. Security operatives have now been deployed to the flashpoints. The spokesperson for the Adamawa State Police Command, SP Suleiman Unguroje, announced this lately. Meanwhile, the National Assembly is preparing to open debate and vote on 44 constitution alteration bills covering wide-ranging reforms, including electoral processes, judicial restructuring, state policing, devolution of powers, and local government autonomy. The bills also touch on inclusive governance, strengthening of traditional institutions, fiscal federalism, citizenship, and indigenization, including the protection of fundamental human rights. For years, calls have intensified for a comprehensive restructuring of the country's political administrative framework, with advocates insisting that more powers should devolve to states and local governments. The last alteration to the 1999 Constitution, its 5th Amendment, was signed into law by former President Muhammadu Buhari on March 17, 2023, with 16 of the proposed changes adopted. Since the beginning of the year, both the Senate and the House of Representatives have held public hearings and engaged various stakeholders to gather inputs on the proposed amendments. Although the House initially scheduled voting for October 14, the process was delayed and debate on the bills is yet to commence. Deputy Speaker Benjamin Kalu, who also chairs the Constitution Review Committee, assured that the exercise will be concluded before the end of 2025. Now, in a very recent development, details have actually been exposed with the delegation from the U.S. to the Nigerian government. United States Congressman Riley Moore has said much work still needs to be done as he raised concerns over rising terrorism and ongoing killings during a meeting with Nigeria's National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu. In a statement today, Moore said the discussions focused on terrorism in the northeast and the killings in the Middle Belt, describing the issues as a specific concern for President Donald Trump and himself. Moore said the delegation and Nigerian officials examined concrete steps and actions that he believes could improve security if carried out fully. Meanwhile, the presidency has described Nigeria's swift response to the attempted coup in Benin Republic, that is the Republic of Benin, as a demonstration of President Bola Tinubu's leadership and commitment to peace, stability, constitutional order across West Africa. This actually follows failed efforts by mutinous soldiers under the banner of the Military Committee for Refoundation, led by Lieutenant Colonel Pascal Tigri, who briefly took over Benin State Television on Sunday in an attempt to oust President Patrice Talon. The coup plot was swiftly quashed by loyalist forces, with the Benin government confirming the restoration of full control. Reacting to this development, the special assistant to the president on social media, Dada Olusegun, in a statement posted on X today, said Nigeria's actions reflected President Tinubu's firm stance on democratic governance. However, there are mixed reactions across Western media as to the true purpose of the Benin coup. They described it as a distraction or a possible means of not looking into Nigeria's insecurity. However, let's take a very brief listen to Jenkel in the United States of America analyzing what transpired in Benin Republic and the role of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in the entire ordeal.
My political son, US-based political analyst, and the host of the wonderful show on which I'm shortly to appear myself, Legitimate Targets, joins us now. As this breaking news comes in, Jackson, a sixth bombing raid by foreign air forces on little Benin and its beautiful capital city. Doesn't sound to me like the coup is over. What do you think?
Thanks for having me back on. Yes, this was a really shocking day. We woke up this morning with the news that there was a coup underway in the country of Benin, the coastal country of Benin, which is extremely important to the rest of the Sahel Alliance states, the AES states, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, because it would give them unimpeded access to a major port in the Sahel area. So this was shocking to me. I don't really know what to make of this coup that took place in the early morning hours, because sometimes these African coups take place, but it's actually the French that are backing these coups and they want to shift around the leaders. But it appears as though this was an entirely real sovereign effort led by the Lieutenant Colonel Tigri in Benin. And within a few short hours, we had the airwaves, the national TV broadcast airwaves, taken over by the coup leaders. There was about 13 men that led this effort, all of the military. And not too long after that, we received all of these French-based reports from AFP and other French outlets saying that the coup was over. And that was in the very early morning hours. Again, I want to stress that. That was a long time ago. They claimed the coup was over. Everyone had been arrested. Some people were even saying that these coup d'etat leaders had been killed in the clashes that were ongoing in the capital city. That turned out to be a bunch of lies because, as you just said, there were 6 airstrikes in the capital, at least 6 bombs that went off. Local sources are saying that it sounded quite clearly like airstrikes, and it would make sense because not only has there been a French surveillance aircraft above the capital city in Benin all day, but there were 3 Nigerian aircraft that entered into the country and were circling over the capital city during the time in which these loud explosions took place. I would presume that they were trying to locate and then target the coup leaders. Some were saying that these coup leaders were on the run. Again, some were saying they were arrested, and some of the other ones were on the run. What we do know is that the Lieutenant Colonel Tigri, who led the effort, was not arrested in the early morning hours. He made a statement late in the afternoon saying that he demanded the supporters of the coup to get out in the streets and protest against the French-backed president, and a lot of people did do that. So it's very, very disheartening to see that Nigeria is taking their dictates from a random white guy in Europe who has an approval rating of like 5% amongst his own population, and they're doing his bidding by now going and airstriking, presumably, innocent people that are just fighting for their sovereignty in another African nation. We also saw today that ECOWAS which is an imperialist tool in Africa, and the African Union, another imperialist tool, both condemned this coup effort. But I fully stand by it, and I hope for the best. I hope that they make it out alive, and I hope that they are able to assert sovereignty in Benin once more.
And of course, the puppet president has not been seen, has he? Not a still, not a video, not a word on the radio. That doesn't sound like someone who's firmly in power, does it?
Of course not. It sounds like he's trapped like a rat somewhere in the capital city. Whether he's trapped by his own security forces or whether he's trapped by the coup leaders, I guess, has yet to be determined. But you would think that if this coup failed and everyone was arrested, you would have at least someone from his administration who would have come out on national television and said that simple fact, given a statement. But all that we saw was the interior minister from the Talon government, who's the former or current president, depending on how you look at the situation. He went out on private TV airwaves, not the national syndicate that was taken over in the morning by the coup leaders, and he gave a statement. And as for the president, you're correct. No one knows where he is. No one has seen him. There hasn't been any phone calls from him, any media appearances, any videos, nothing whatsoever. So I guess we're still waiting for the answers on that.
And what do you make of this, Tinubu? The Nigerian armed forces are being offered help from Donald Trump. So difficult are they finding it to protect their own people from ISIS and its chapter there, Boko Haram. So the Nigerian military can be spared to go and attack their neighbor, but they can't keep peace and stop ISIS in their own country. What kind of president is that?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, Tinubu has very long-standing ties in the United States. Max Blumenthal and David Hundeyin, who's the latter is a Nigerian journalist, very famous, did a brilliant piece on Tinubu in the Gray Zone. Everyone should read it, about Tinubu's ties to cocaine trafficking networks in Chicago in his earlier years. So this is the type of guy that we're dealing with, in bed with the CIA, in bed with all these narco trafficking units. But of course, the West backs up the real narco terrorists like Tinubu, who, as you point out, are ignoring, I would say, the assault on their sovereignty by Western-backed terrorists like Boko Haram. Also now, JNIM, another terrorist organization linked with Al-Qaeda, has also entered into Nigeria. They have been causing a lot of chaos in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger the past few years. And what is the goal here? Well, the goal is to try and take as many of the resource-rich regions in these countries, in particular in Nigeria, and the U.S. will cry foul. They'll say that Christians are being genocided, even though Christians and Muslims are being killed in both very high rates. Actually, far more Muslims are being killed than Christians in Nigeria. And then Eric Prince or some other private military contractor will get to send in their mercenaries to Nigeria, and they will take up all of the resource-rich land, the mineral-rich land, the gold-rich land in Nigeria, and illegally steal all of the resources.
Now, this is Western media's interpretation of what transpired, I think, on Saturday thereabout. However, the president of Benin has come out to actually give an expression, although that statement or delivery was done in French. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's government has denied interfering or invading Benin's airspace without their permission. They clarified that it was on the request of Benin Republic that they assist. However, the Western media is reporting that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was ordered to do so. We're going to get into that during the analysis segment on the true fact of the situation.
Still on the world news at 6, U.S. lawmaker Riley Moore has commended the federal government for the rescue of 100 school children abducted from St. Mary's Private Catholic Primary and Secondary School in Papiri, Agwara local government area of Niger State. The U.S. member of the House of Reps in a post on X today described the release of the children as a positive demonstration of President Bola Tinubu's response to the country's security challenges. Meanwhile, Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court in Abuja has rejected an application filed by the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra IPOB, Nnamdi Kano, seeking his transfer from the Sokoto Correctional Center to a custodial facility within the Federal Capital Territory or neighboring Nasarawa State. Kano, through the Legal Aid Council, had approached the court with an ex-parte application requesting an order directing the federal government or the Nigerian Correctional Service to immediately move him from Sokoto to either Kuje Custodial Center in Abuja or Kefi Custodial Center in Nasarawa State. In the alternative, he asked to be transferred to any custodial facility within the court's jurisdiction, including Suleja or Kefi, to enable him to effectively pursue his appeal. However, Justice James Omotosho declined the request, ruling that such an order could not be granted without hearing from the federal government. Meanwhile, a baffling drama played out in Ile-Ife, Osun State on Sunday during the 10th coronation anniversary of the Ooni of Ife, Oba Adeyeye Ogunwusi, and the installation of Nigeria's First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, as the Yeye Asiwaju Gbogbo Ile Oodua. The moment captured in a viral video saw Senator Oluremi Tinubu interrupting Osun State Governor Ademola Adeleke as he delivered his remarks at the high-profile event. In the video circulating online, Governor Adeleke was seen singing mid-speech to the amusement of the crowd when the First Lady approached the podium and in a low tone urged him to wrap up. "I'll give you 5 minutes to conclude your speech. Enough with the music or I'll switch off the microphone," the First Lady was heard saying. The event, held in the ancient city of Ile-Ife, attracted traditional rulers, political figures and dignitaries from across the southwest and beyond. Despite the interruption, proceedings continued smoothly, with Governor Adeleke completing his address and the ceremony moving forward without further incident. As of today, the video of the exchange remained a trending topic on social media platforms, sparking varied commentary. While some users view the First Lady's intervention as assertive, others question the appropriateness of the public correction. President Bola Tinubu today received 6 governors elected under the All Progressives Congress (APC) in a private session at the presidential villa in Abuja. The meeting, which was held away from the public eye, immediately drew attention within political circles as no details of the agenda were released. The governors include the governors of Jigawa, Edo, Ekiti, Kogi, Sokoto, Kebbi, who arrived at the State House earlier in the day and were ushered straight into the president's office for the discussion. According to information, the session lasted less than an hour. Despite the short duration, the quiet nature of the visit has fueled speculation about the issues that may have been discussed, especially as the country continues to grapple with rising security concerns in several regions. Insiders within the villa did not provide any insight into the purpose of the gathering, and officials of the presidency also kept sealed lips.
All right, it's now time for us to take on with our news analysis segment. We'll be joined via the telephone with Barrister Fred Nzako, who will be giving us some insights into some of the stories read out on the World News at 6. We're going to start off specifically with the situation with Benin Republic, and obviously if the First Lady did what was right by ordering Governor Adeleke to wrap up, otherwise she'll switch off his mic, if you would call it impunity, possibly because of the fact that she's a First Lady. Also, the denial of the court for Nnamdi Kano's transfer to another prison, which he considers preferable to that of Sokoto Correctional Center. Barrister Fred Nzako, good evening and thank you for joining us today. How are you, sir?
Very well. Good evening.
All right, good evening, Barrister. I don't know if you listened to us. I played the interpretation of the Western media's perception of the Benin Republic coup, which obviously President Bola Ahmed Tinubu sent about 2 or 3 fighter jets to see how they could ensure that the coup plotters did not escape and sort of protect the territory of Benin. We know that Benin is a very important West African nation, which actually has very close borders with Nigeria. But there have been talks about the situation with militarization of governments that surrounds Nigeria. If that coup had taken place, Benin Republic would have been the 8th country that is already been taken over by the military. And there are fears and concerns by some certain social activists, social organizational groups about Nigeria's sustainability with its democracy if countries surrounding it are already being militarized. However, what is your interpretation about the Benin Republic failed coup attempt and Nigeria's intervention in the process?
Well, the issues regarding that very cool and circumstances around it, including Nigerians' involvement, which is neither here nor there. How there's something within the little time we have to analyze this, but let's to say,
yes, sir.
Just wanted to say that no matter how important Benin Republic is to Nigeria, it cannot be more important than component parts of Nigeria. It cannot be more important than the federated state of Nigeria. It cannot be more important than the zones of Nigeria. And if that is why they got that picture, their interaction, they continue to wonder if Nigeria as a country cannot secure territorial integrity from the ravaging terrorists and the swiftness with which the government reacted to the coup attempt in Benin Republic gives Nigerian government out as knowing something that they are not telling Nigerian people. And that is why many Nigerians are continuing to argue that the issue of terrorism in Nigeria and the US government has handled it leaves a lot of room for speculation and leaves a lot of room for suspicion that the government is not telling Nigerians the truth. Look at the swiftness with which they went to the Republic to go and rout and drive away the coupists and even try to apprehend them. Not forgetting the fact that the Republic is a completely different sovereign country. Yes, the government claimed that they sent them a letter, Kano of an SOS message to come and help them. But the swiftness cannot be compared to when Governor was sent the same SOS message to the military in Nimbo in Ozo 1. It took 5 hours before the military could even blow a siren. And at the end of the day, over 200 people were killed. And similar things happened in Borno State and in many other parts of the northeast and other parts of Nigeria. So meaning that the military has the capacity for swift response, but political inaction and the lack of to attack terrorists have been delaying that deployment. Now there is no such in Benin Republic, and very swiftly the Nigerian Air Force was in the air. Meanwhile, Nigerian Constitution makes it provides that before you deploy the military, before the president deploys the military outside the country, it must receive the veto of the Senate, at least the Senate. But if, for example, if there was such an emergency that Nigerian security is under compromise, then he can deploy, and within 7 days, seek the consent of the Senate. So now that the military has been deployed in the Republic, I do not know how the coup in the Republic has anything to do with our own security and our own affairs, apart from the fact that we just wanted to play the big brother. Yes, I agree with anybody, and I also maintain that the military regime is outdated and anachronistic and should not be tolerated or promoted. But we have to also look at our own law. Section 5 of our Constitution, 4 of our Constitution. Then even Section 218, which gives the president the authority to deploy the military, is subject to the provision of Section 5 subsection 4, which also makes it possible, makes it mandatory that the consent of the Senate must be sought and obtained. Now the military, or rather the government is claiming that on one hand they are praising Mr. President for the swift deployment. On the other hand, they are claiming that they operated under ECOWAS multilateral joint task force. ECOWAS by the military facility, which involved donation of troops and airplanes, fighter jets by Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, and one other country. That was why when you listen to the discussion by the Western media gentlemen, we're talking about 5 airplanes operating in the air.
Yes.
Nigeria donated 3. So they were now claiming that they operated under ECOWAS standby army or standby military force. So on one side, the government wants to take credit for the deploying of that coup. On the other side, the government wants to avoid the backlash that will be attendant to deployment of Nigerian military outside Nigeria without the consent of the Senate.
So it is
an appropriate probation and reprobation tactics by the government.
So, Barrister, we have the capacity to swiftly tackle anything that has to do that affects the sovereignty of the Nigerian nation. And all this while, we've not really seen the utilization of these fighter jets in visiting the hot zones where ISWAP, Lakurawa, Mahmuda, and all the terrorist groups have their enclaves. If there was an SOS sent to the Nigerian military to help sustain Benin Republic sovereignty, and their fighter jets went there to do that, what has stopped the effectiveness of these fighter jets in our home nation in areas where these terrorists actually reside? So are we saying that the security situation in Nigeria is deliberately led to escalate to generate what precisely?
And that is why security experts and observers have said and pointed and given fingers at government. That the government knows what is going on. That the government does not want to fight this terrorism. For whatever reason, they have not told Nigerians why they are dragging their feet in this fight against terrorism. And so when the Minister of Defense of Nigeria can open his mouth and tell the international community that the Nigerian airplane, that the temperature forest is so thick that when they drop bomb, that the bomb cannot get there. What does that tell you? It simply tells you that the government is not ready. When another country, United Arab Emirates, give Nigeria names of terrorist financiers and sponsors, and for many years government has been playing this service to it and has not done industry to even to name and shame them, not to talk of prosecuting them. What does it tell you? It tells you that government is knowing something that it does not want to tell the people, and that is why people easily accuse the government of lying in the same bed with terrorists, because the top officials of government that are supposed to fight the terrorists are the ones that are busy rebranding the terrorists as bandits, so that even the international community will not attack them. Now, the Benin Republic incident has exposed the capacity of the military. They cannot not only that they can be swift, they can be prompt, and that they have the capacity to rout a set of coupists who themselves, the government even went to the military camp where they are, like a cantonment, to begin to rout them out. So what does it tell you? It tells you that we have the capacity, but simply don't want to use it. So every Nigerian must now know that all this talk about anti-terrorism fight or fight against insecurity and all that is just made service by the government. That the government does not want to stop this insecurity in Nigeria. That if they want to stop it, they can stop it. It's as simple as that. And that is why the international community is aghast and saying, so you people have this kind of capacity, you people have this kind of alacrity, this type of sweetness, and and able to go to another country, underline your own domestic laws, and then go to another country and drive away coupists. When it happened in the Czech Republic, Nigerian government wanted to intervene then, remember. But it was advised. That was when President Tinubu newly took over as ECOWAS chairman. And then the northern element said, look, if you do this, there will be more collateral damage that will affect Nigeria. What does it tell you? Again, lack of the will to attack and stop what is going on. And it is getting very close. It is getting very, very close, and we must watch it. And that is why France and the rest of the world are worried that their former colonial enclaves are almost seeking liberation, even in a very crude and military form. But it simply tells you that politicians must watch it, because one of the three things cause coup planning and coup plots. One is failure to deliver good governance by elected politicians. That is number one. Number two is optics. When the people are suffering and they keep seeing the people they elected enjoying in a very inanimate manner, that are abandoning their welfare and their interests, it brings a lot of bad blood and a lot of ill will against those in authority. And the third thing is when the people in authority do not want constructive and reasonable opposition, because democracy is anchored on constructive criticism and opposition, so that there will be an alternative viewpoint. Yes, the majority will have their way, but you must allow the minority to have their say. These are the will happen to them. They have taken a suicide mission. So for anyone that sits down and thinks of such coup plotting, he must have gotten to the point where he will not mind whether he lives or he dies. And in any environment where the majority of the citizens don't mind whether they live or they die, the leaders must be very careful in the way and manner they treat the citizens of that country.
Barrister Nnamdi Kano actually wrote to an appeal to be transferred to another correctional center away from Sokoto, and his reason is the fact that he cannot liaise with his legal consultants. The distance and the condition there is not comfortable for his legal consultants, and the court did not actually assent to it. They said they would need to get the permission or the backing
of the
federal government. Can you
need to hear?
Or they need to hear from the federal government. Please, Barrister Fred Nzako, what does that even mean?
We said it from day one that it does not lie in the authority or purview of the presiding judge to determine where to keep a convict who has been sentenced. It is not his duty. The judge misconducted himself by determining that Nnamdi Kano should be kept in a special confinement. Yes, the court did not mention a particular place, but that word kept in a special confinement is violates the powers of the judge. Now, in James Ibori's matter, the Court of Appeal, James Ibori was taken to Kaduna Federal High Court. Federal High Court is the same all over the country, so it has single jurisdiction. You can try anybody in any Federal High Court. But they now took James Ibori from Delta State to Kaduna Federal High Court to go and try him by the EFCC. The Court of Appeal, and that appeal, that's a pronouncement still stands up to today, said that you must consider geographical jurisdiction when you are trying somebody, because the whole essence of trial is to find out the truth. And don't forget that somebody on trial is considered innocent until proven guilty. And that taking him to Kaduna to try him will take him away from his opportunity to defend himself. And that judgment is there. So when the federal government now decided to keep Nnamdi Kano in Sokoto prison, it is an injustice on its own. It amounts to selective justice, because Nnamdi Kano was tried in Abuja. There is a major correctional center in Abuja where he should have been kept. There are others all around Abuja where he should have been kept. And they just came into Sokoto, meaning they don't want him to defend his appeal. It's as simple as that. So if the Federal High Court has assumed the status of functus officio, in which case it has given judgment and can no longer revisit the issue of where he was kept. Now the Court of Appeal should be very expeditious in giving such an order that Nnamdi Kano should be returned to where he will have access to his legal team and access to facilities to defend his appeal. Otherwise, we can simply say that the injustice against Nnamdi Kano have now taken a technical dimension, which the federal government must give answers to that, because federal correctional services, it is the duty for the federal government, that controls the Nigerian correctional services, aka Nigerian prison services, to determine where a convict and the convict to be kept. There is no reason why Nnamdi Kano will be kept in Sokoto when his lawyers and his appeal are lying in Abuja.
All right, Barrister, is it possible to say that when they took him to Sokoto prison, that order came from the federal government?
It is, of course, not it is an express understanding, because the decision to keep any convict anywhere is the prerogative of the federal government, represented by the correctional services. Look at the way it works. Once somebody is convicted and the person is sentenced, the court hands off, the matter ends. We call it, the court becomes functus officio. It will no longer add or remove anything from the judgment, except maybe to do some minor correction of scrivener's errors or typographical errors. But the major judgment has been given. Now it is now the duty of the federal government to determine where to keep the convict. There are three correctional centers, and don't forget that the prison service is under the exclusive legislative list. There is no state that has prison service. If you build anyone, you donate it to federal government, just like federal government has decided on its own to keep on Kano in Sokoto. Now, the judge gave room for that by making such extrajudicial personal pronouncement that is ultra via the capacity and the function of the judge to say that he should be kept in a special confinement. Special confinement that you did not even keep confessed Boko Haram elements, and you are now keeping the freedom fighter in a special confinement. They should have taken him to Robin Island in South Africa so that we know that they really mean to take him out of circulation. I think that, again, federal government is continuing to progress in error on issues of Mazen and the Kano. They should keep him where he should be happy. He should have access to his lawyers and access to facilities to defend himself, because it is his fundamental constitutional and unalienable right to defend himself in the court of appeal and to further defend himself in the Supreme Court. Supreme Court is only in Abuja. You don't have Supreme Court in Sokoto. So you don't expect him to stay in Sokoto and be defending himself in the court of appeal that is in Abuja. I think the federal government must follow itself some sense and do what is right for once, on issues concerning Mazen African.
All right, Barrister Chuma.
All right, Barrister Faradin Zako, thank you so much for your time. I want to quickly talk about Nigeria's First Lady Senator Oluremi Tinubu during her coronation in Ile-Ife, Osun State, where she cautioned, or do we say corrected, Osun State Governor Ademola Adeleke. He was on stage, he was meant to give a speech. You know, the governor is someone who seems to really like entertainment. He loves to sing, and he loves even more to dance. So the governor was singing a song of praise, and at some time, the First Lady walked up to him and told him, I give you 5 minutes to wrap up your speech and leave this place. And while he was trying to make sense of what was happening, she came back again and said, look, I'm not playing with you. You need to leave here now. And some Nigerians are saying the governor was really embarrassed what this happened, and they're asking the question, if he was one of those who have been singing on your mandate, we shall stand, would this have been happening? Or is it that the governor chose the wrong time to show his entertaining side of him? Do we call this correction? Do we call this interference?
Choma, in all honesty, I am not interested in that gist. Completely not interested, and I'll tell you why. The action of the First Lady, the singing of the governor, the issues about the coronation, all those things have nothing to do with the welfare and interests of the suffering masses of Nigeria that don't have food to eat, children that don't even have ordinary medication to survive, pregnant women that, even as we speak, doctors strike have not been called off, and people are dying here and there. And what is concerning Nigeria and what is trending in the media is that Mr. President, that is not an elected official, went and talked to the governor that was asked on the podium. What is this kind of inconsequential trending in the social media? I can tell you, as far as I'm concerned, the actions, the reactions, and everything surrounding it are completely inconsequential, and I'm not interested in joining issues with anybody in that regard. These are all politics taken too far. Politics of intolerance, politics of lack of decorum, politics of lack of integrity, politics of lack of motion, politics of lack of concern for the teeming people that are suffering. Yes, they are celebrating 10th coronation anniversary of the Oni. How many people have the First Lady visited when there are incidences of attack on the people? Has she gone to Niger State, where children were kidnapped? Has she gone to Kebbi State, where children were kidnapped? Has she gone to any other place where people are crying? The Holy Book says, cry with those who cry and rejoice with those who rejoice. Honest is not only about rejoicing with those who rejoice. How about the people who are crying? How about making life better? How about giving hope to those who are despondent? And then it's trending that she was up to the governor spare me that kind of inanity. I am not interested. If they like, they can fight. If they like, as far as I'm concerned, it's all politics. And the Nigerian people are looking for good governance, expecting good governance, because that is the whole essence of democracy, and not the kind of charade that we are getting in the modern day Nigeria. I am completely disappointed with the actions of political gladiators in this country.
All right, Barrister Mr. Fred Nzako, thank you so much for giving us your insight on the World News at 6. We sincerely do appreciate your input.
Many thanks.
Thank you, sir. And that's a wrap on the World News at 6. My name is Esther Mwachuku.
And my name is Chioma Innocent. Good evening and thank you for listening. Evening Rush will come up at exactly 7 p.m.
Please note, the views and opinions expressed on this program solely those of the individual contributors and do not necessarily represent the official views of the Voice of the People 90.3 FM, Lagos. We do not endorse or take responsibility for any content shared by our followers or third-party users. Thank you.
From the views on the street,
we go to bed empty hunger,
to the blaring horns of a hustling city, the loudest voices of the common man got a medium to be heard.
This particular administration, they were coming unprepared.
It's not a bad thing to renovate the president's lodge.
Through top-notch programming, unbiased reportage of news, sports, business, entertainment, and cultural documentaries, Voice of the People 90.3 FM became a symbol for 21st century media. And now, a new baby is born. Voice of the People Television, VOP TV, youthful, full of vigor and pressure for excellence in the continent's media space, exposing the wrongs, applauding the rights, dissecting the news without fear or favor, through factual and accurate stories and contents.
Corruption kills 3 things and makes a society.
Representing the interests of the people and giving them a voice. Voice of the People TV is here to stay towards building a fair society. VOP TV, Voice of the People Television, truly a voice for the people.
Welcome to the best exclusive radio station, VOP 90.3, bringing you the best mix of the best music.
You want use person do money, kill him.
Sit fire for here, put on for in there, burn him. Yes, they no go find better work do. Now Yahoo they go do. Stop!
That person where you won't born, if it dey innocent, no go carry person blood put for your head. Jungle justice no good at all. Stop am.
You will light the fire. You not get hurt. Say no to jungle justice.
You uncle, we follow for the crowd they look where then they born person. You no stop them. If they do you like film, abi? Your hands self no clean. You fit enter gbege. Stop the lynching. Stop jungle justice.
Under the criminal law for Lagos State, person will start jungle justice.